Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Venice, affectionately known as UCOV. My name is Richard Canarelli, and I will be your worship associate for this morning's service. In Dante's Journey, the writer J.C. Marino wrote, "Small people command the letter of the law. Great people serve its spirit. For the spirit of the law is justice, and justice is the spirit of the divine." We welcome all respectful seekers here today as we explore morality, ethics, and wisdom. Here at UCOV, there is no creed which you must believe to enter, and we hope that you find here a community and challenge you as you learn to grow. We invite everyone, especially the people who are visiting, to join us for refreshments and conversation on the lanai after the service. And there you'll find more about our congregation. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to contact the people at the welcome desk, our minister, or you can go online at our website, ucov.org. Is there anybody here that's visiting for the first time that is brave enough to stand up and say, please, can somebody get her a microphone?
Hi, my name is Susan Don, and I live in Venice in Pelican Point Golf and Country Club. And I've been to the UU Church at Sarasota, but I've never been to this one.
Good.
So I'm exploring.
Where are you from? Susan, where are you from?
Susan, pardon?
Where are you from?
Originally, Cape Cod, Mass.
Now, who else? We've got a lot of friends here, and I know there are people that are watching online that are from that area. Is anybody else visiting for the first time or the second time?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, my name is Lucky Whitaker, but came here once before, but I didn't have the nerve to stand up and say, hi, everybody. So anyway, glad to be here. I'm waiting for a friend. I don't know if he's here or not. Is Terry here? Not yet. Okay. Thank you.
Will somebody please go get Terry?
Thank you. We're lucky to have you.
We got one up front here, Jean. Jean up front. Wait, she.
Get my exercise.
I'm going to be good and give this to my love.
We're Pat and David Smith. We live at Tuscany Lakes, not a few blocks from here, actually. And I've passed it. We used to be very serious Presbyterians when we lived in New Jersey. But since we came down here, we haven't really been involved in any church activities. And I kind of miss it. So I saw the sign and I thought this might fit us the best. We used to be Catholics, but we aren't anymore. And
Does anybody here used to be Presbyterian or Catholic? There you go.
there you go. There you go.
You have a lot of friends here.
Right. Well, and we know because of some of the help we received during some of the hurricanes, we became friends with a group of people who are very serious Catholics, but they're very political. We find that
No, we're not political here, are we?
Yeah. So we're looking for something spiritual, and hopefully we'll get to sing a little. Thank you.
I think you're going to find it.
Thank you. Me too, and I'm happy to be here.
Jean, I think there's somebody here.
Susan McConnell, second time here, friend of Jean's, and I saw something up on the TV that suggests that there are a bunch of you who are singers, so I'm looking forward to that too. as well. All right.
Has anybody here returned from the tundra up north? Oh, wow.
Oh, look at that. Good to have
Well,
you
welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Any other visitors? Did I miss anybody? No, okay. Don't have a lot of announcements to make. Please be sure to check your bulletin for any information, but I do have one. Election time. Please be sure to vote. And when you vote, make sure that you sign out in front the I voted message board. It is part of a campaign that we're putting on to make sure that all of our members vote, and we're connected with a whole network of people that are doing the same thing. So please, please, please remember to vote. Our democracy is at stake. Are there any other announcements? Did I miss anything? No, okay. We are now entering a sacred space, so please silence all your electronics and your phones that you may have with you today. We light our chalice today for the wisdom to know right from wrong, and the courage to always choose good over evil, and the strength to hold fast in the face of oppression.
Well, good morning and welcome, everybody. It is so good to see you. Before we were so rudely interrupted by a whole hurricane, I talked a couple weeks ago a little bit about a specific quote, and I'm going to give it to you now in its correct context. Abraham Lincoln said, "Freedom is not the right to do what we want, but what we ought." Now, we talked about that one a couple weeks ago, used in the wrong context. Here's how it was actually completed. "Let us have faith that right makes might, and In that faith, let us to the end dare to do our duty as we understand it. We come together here every week for a whole host of reasons. But at least one of those reasons is to help us individually decide how we will know right from wrong, how we will decide for ourselves what is moral and ethical and wise. Now, we are about 10 days out from the hurricane that hit Venice and the surrounding areas, and it made every one of us face decisions about what it was smart and ethical to do as we faced that crisis. Do we stay? Do we leave? Do we follow evacuation orders? Do we say, the heck with it, I actually know better what's right for me? There were so many questions, and only you know the right answers for you and your family. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about ethics and a little bit about wisdom, a little bit about rule and law breaking as an exercise in wisdom, because sometimes it's smarter not to do what you're supposed to. And we're going to talk about the fact that if you don't gotta suffer, don't sign up to suffer. I'm so glad you are here today to support one another and to be supported in your own search for meaning and wisdom and truth. So come and let us worship here together. Now, as you know, UCOV is a welcoming, caring community, open to anyone who respectfully enters, and we encourage spiritual growth. We seek meaning and pursue justice together. So please join me now in reading the words of our covenant, the promise of how we will be together. In a climate of joy, goodwill, and trust, this congregation covenants to treat one another with kindness and respect, to listen with openness and acceptance, to support and protect the environment of which we are all a part, to solve problems responsibly as we grow and change, to encourage learning and nurture the growth of diverse human spirits, and to dedicate time, talent, and resources in an effort to make a difference in our local and world communities. In the spirit of our free religious heritage, we promise these to one another. Now, most of you know that is our actual congregational covenant. Real people wrote those words, not just a minister, and those words are changeable. So one of the things I will be asking the board to do later this year is open up some meetings on whether that covenant is still the promises we want to make, or do people have different wording, different things they want to add? What does that look like? So that is a living covenant. It changes as you all change and as your wishes change. Please rise in body or spirit as you are willing and join in singing our opening hymn, number 347, Gather the Spirit. This is our time of offering, and as always, the offering words are given with levity because giving shouldn't hurt. The administrative assistant of a small UU church was doing the bills for the month and realized with horror that she had forgotten the combination of the safe and could not get the Sunday offering out to take it to the bank. She tried everything, but at last, in embarrassment, she was forced to call the minister. The minister arrived and twirled the lock several times without success, then sighed and stood for a long moment and looked up at the ceiling. "That's it," he said quietly, and he confidently went over and spun the dial several times, and it popped right open. "Wow," said the administrator, "I cannot believe it. God told you the combination?" And the minister looked at her for a minute and said, "What?" "Oh, no," he said. He pointed up. He said, "The last time this happened, I wrote the numbers on a sticky note and taped it up there where no one would notice it." Now, due to our own lack of divine financial intervention, the morning offering will now be given and gratefully received. Our Share the Plate collection this month should have been last week. And so this is for Family Promise. So please give generously to help Family Promise in their work with unhoused families. Thank you so much for these gifts and for just everything you do for the life and the work of this community. You all are amazing. It's as a community of human hands and human hearts that we come together here to bear witness and minister to one another as we struggle with life's sorrows and we celebrate life's joy. So at this time of sharing, you can raise a hand and someone will bring you a mic. Please share only the stories that are yours to tell. I will light candles for you at this point in the service. At any other time before or during the service, you're welcome to come up and light for yourself. So if you have a joy or a sorrow, please raise a hand.
And my partner Lori and I just got back to town last night. And our home has been destroyed. So we love this community and just thank you for your prayers. We have a lot of uncertainty in our lives right now, but we're grateful for the candle, Amy, and grateful for all of you.
Well, I hate to follow that with this, but I was in Massachusetts. Thank God I'm back now. But I had 6 dogs, 4 cats, and 4 friends in my house, and everyone survived perfectly well. I was up in Massachusetts, so.
Survived.
I'm Lorraine, and my family survived. My mother, who I have been talking about before, has cancer. She is undergoing immunotherapy, and the good news is it's working. The bad news is she lost her home and everything pretty much inside, so she's living with me now.
Hi, I'm Tom Reeves. I'd like to say that, through the storm, we had just gotten back, of course, from being up north when along came Milton. And Pat and I invited Marcia Smith and Barb Gundy over to our house because they were on the island and we were up in sea. Well, we know what happened about sea. So we asked them, well, we found that a friend of ours lived in Boynton Beach, but she was still up in New York State, but we could use her house. Did they want to come with us over to Boynton Beach? And they said yes. And so the four of us went across the state, and we spent 3 nights there. And it all went well. Of course, on Wednesday, when we were watching the storm, we were also watching that a few, more than a few, tornadoes landed just north of us. So we then got back home on Friday, and luckily for Pat and I, we had power. Barb and Marcia did not for a couple days yet. But the good news is we all survived very well, and we hope that that was true for most of you too.
On that note, I want to say thank you because so many people reached out to help each other, and I think that was the important thing, that we supported one another. I actually just talked to Sue Brinkerhoff last night, and she lost her husband, Gil, 10 days ago, and she's moved, and she gave me her new address. So if you wanted to send her a card, I know she'd appreciate it because she's feeling very much alone right now. Thank you.
I ask also that we hold in our hearts this week the people of Palestine, the people of Israel, the people of the Ukraine, and the people of Russia. May there come a day where there is no more war. May the love of this community hold all who need love and concern, and may the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May we never look away when we're needed. May those who are grieving be comforted, and those who are tired find rest. May the broken places be healed, and may those who are filled with joy and laughter be abundant.
Our first reading today is entitled, When Breaking the Rules is Required, by Lance Salyers. When to follow the rules and when to violate them. When to preserve beautiful order and when to flirt with anarchy. A few years ago, my wife and I were readying ourselves for bed when the most horrifying sound came from our son's bedroom. The sound of a young child coughing and struggling to breathe. I arrived at his bedroom first, so I got first crack at failing to figure out what was going on and how to fix it. After a minute or so trying to calm him down, to no avail, we called our neighbor to come and sit with our still somehow sleeping daughter, jumped in the car, and raced off toward the children's hospital that fortunately was located nearby. Thankfully, it turned out to be nothing more than a bad case of the croup. Several laws were broken during the course of that short drive. Speed limits, car seat requirements. My wife held our frightened, grasping son in her lap. Lane change regulations, stop sign commands. The law makes no exception for taking these actions in the event of an emergency. Here in Ohio, for example, if you are responding to an emergency in an official vehicle equipped with a flashing light, visible from 500 feet away, and an audible siren, the traffic laws largely don't apply to you. But if you're a private citizen driving a Honda The fact that you are responding to an emergency doesn't exempt you from the rules. What kind of father would I have been if I was willing to break the law anyway in that situation? If I had insisted my wife buckle our gasping son in his car seat, the back seat, instead of holding him tightly and giving him as much comfort through connection as possible. If I had obeyed the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit in our neighborhood, coming to a complete standstill at every stop. If I had maintained the prescribed distance behind the car in front of me and signaled for the prescribed period of time before changing the lanes. And yet, if a police officer had tried to pull me over that night as I raced to the hospital, I have little doubt I would not have been ticketed once I finished ignoring his lights and sirens and continued speeding to the emergency room anyway. A human officer would have recognized the situation and done what the dispassionate law would not: ignore the rules and my breaking of them. Now we enter into a period of meditation from A Prayer of Risk by Tamara Liebeck. Today we remember to breathe deeply, to rest, to take in, to pause before we act, and then to take in another deep breath, poised on the edge and risking jumping in, risk taking action, risk speaking up, risk using the gifts we have been given so that at the end of our life we can say with absolute clarity that no part of our existence was wasted in fear of failure or fear of success. Hold us, prepare us the way to begin to offer the gift of our awakened presence, full of love and light today. These and the prayers of our hearts we lift up now in the silence. With the words in mind, please join me in 1 minute of silent thought, meditation, and prayer. Our second reading today is from Breaking the Rules. Doing Right Means Sometimes Ignoring the Law by Mark Peruzzi. Ours is a crime family. My son Jake is a hardened scofflaw. He's 10. Just last summer, I convinced him to flout his first ordinance. A favorite memory from my teenage years involves jumping from the Cohasset Bridge a few towns to the north. I wanted to share the experience with the little hoodlum. We made Granny drive the getaway car. My wife, Sarah, rode shotgun. The bridge was deserted as we approached the rail. As we prepared to climb over the ledge, 2 teenage boys walked up. They cautioned us that the current was strong and looked at Jake as if marking his age. He was 2 years younger than I had been the first time I jumped. A moment of doubt came over me. But Jake was already over the wall. I joined him on the ledge. The water looked farther away than I remembered. This was not the place to linger. Jake asked to hold my hand. We leaped on a count of 3. My life is a series of illegal acts. Most of this amounts to breaking petty rules. Lately, though, I've had to put some thoughts into my lawlessness. How do I instruct my kids on the decrees that are safe, even healthy, to break, and the ones that aren't? Ducking one rope leads to a harmless stash of in-bonds powder. Ducking another rope leads to an uncontrolled avalanche, terror, terrain, and death. Some trails should never be ridden for the common good. Some leaps can kill you. I want my children to be free and also abide by the social contract. Those who would occasionally flout authority must know how to gauge the morality of their actions. If you are afraid to break a few rules when there's nothing on the line, how will you speak out against authority when it's life and death? Authority comes in many forms. Sometimes it's an unjust law. Other times it's a person. More often, there's a crowd of friends involved. The meek suffer in the face of such power, real or perceived. I want my kids to grow up with the courage to say things like, "No, Mr. Ski Guide, I don't care how much experience you have, that slope is not safe to ski today." Or, "Guys, I think there's a wrecked car at the bottom of that flooded quarry. Let's swim down and scout the landing zone first." Or, "Mountain bikers have a right to use these trails too. I'm voting for change." Or simply, "You're plastered, I'm calling a cab." Courage and moral compass are fascism's bane. Dare to live a moral life, I tell my kids, the beautiful hoodlums, and sometimes what's right wins out over what's merely prescribed. Our next hymn today is hymn number 16, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 16.
Just right to be in the valley of
Boy, it's been a long 2 weeks, hasn't it? I originally today was just going to talk a little bit about ethical decision making. And after hours plastered to the news, worried about friends here and in North Carolina, listening to people who lived on beaches and boats say, "Nah, I'll be fine. I'm just staying here." I thought, what better time to talk about this than right now? So we're going to talk about wisdom and having the courage to make good and ethical choices. Because a lot of us had to make those choices. Do we go? Do we stay? And what better time to talk about wisdom and home than this, the week of Sukkot, or the Jewish holiday celebrating harvest and home, and the homes the Jews were forced to make as they escaped Egypt. So it all kind of ties into a nice squishy ball. Now, years ago, there was a song that some of you may actually remember by a guy named Jim Croce. And his most famous songs included this one. It was called "Don't Mess Around with Jim." And the song itself was essentially the story of a bad bar fight. But the chorus was great. And the words are, "You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask off the old Lone Ranger. And you don't mess around with Jim." Sometimes wisdom is not that profound. Sometimes wisdom is very straightforward. Don't do that thing because it's stupid. Just don't do it. And sometimes we ignore wisdom because it seems too simple. Wisdom should be all dressed up in curly letters and long robes, right? Don't spit into the wind. Don't go surfing in a hurricane. Several folks from this area needed to hear that message before they had to be rescued from the North Jetty. And sometimes we don't ignore wisdom just because it's simple. Sometimes we overthink. And there's even a really old joke about it where the guy ran out of gas on a lonely road way out in the country. So he got his gas can out of his trunk and he started to walk. And he thought, "I'm going to walk until I see a farmhouse, then I'll go ask for gas." And off in the distance, he did see a farmhouse, so he started to walk toward it. He said, "A lot of farmhouses have a dog, a big, mean farm dog, and maybe when I get to the farm, they will have a big, mean dog. And maybe it will chase me. And I'll run from it, and it will grab my pants, and I'll be trying to kick it. And right then is when the farmer will come out, and he'll think I'm kicking his dog, and he'll grab a gun, and he'll tell me to go away, and he won't give me any gas at all." And by then he had walked all the way up to the farm door, and there was no dog in sight, but he was so involved in the story in his head. And he banged on the door hard, and the farmer's wife answered the door, said hello in a perfectly pleasant voice. But he had run through this, and he'd worked so hard and worked himself up, and he said, "I never kicked your dog. I don't want any darn gas anyway. Goodbye." And he marched away, still carrying his can. Sometimes the wisest way to do things, excuse me, gets ignored. The wisdom gets ignored because we just can't turn off the story in our head, which has taken us somewhere else. Well, if I evacuate now and my house doesn't flood, then I'll have wasted lots of money, but if I don't evacuate and my house does flood, I could die, or looters could come in and shoot me, and then I'd have to crawl away, and then alligators would eat. Your brain is creating a telenovela in your head. Overthinking. there's another way that we as humans leave the path of wisdoms, and it's kind of sad. Our responsible search for truth and meaning can get derailed when we spend our lives refusing to break the rules ever. Truth and meaning get derailed when we follow the letter of the law and allow the spirit to vanish in a puff of smoke. You know, common sense and wisdom are cousins. They're members of the same family that sort of look alike. But poor common sense is often a victim, and she gets slaughtered in the name of wisdom. Mindless adherence to rules leads to the murder of common sense. And sadly, religion is one of those places where this often happens. When I first started to get involved with immigration reform, I heard a very religious person arguing about exactly what was meant by love your neighbor as yourself. And their argument was that everybody could not be their neighbor. So they had to figure out who their neighbor exactly was. And someone else started arguing about the meaning of the word love. And it was a very learned discussion about agape love and personal love and romantic love and the Greek idea of love and the divine idea of love. And it came down to looking for a loophole in that simple love your neighbor as yourself, because they wanted to hate all the same black and brown and LGBTQ people that they'd always hated, but with some type of invisible sky being's permission. You know, it gave me a headache. Now, Judaism gets around this in a novel way. Judaism comes right out and tells you, don't be an idiot while practicing your religion. And I'm serious. The Jewish festival of Sukkot began on Wednesday this year, and it lasts until the 23rd. This is the one where Jewish people put up the huts in their yard with gaps in the roof or walls so they can see the sky, and it commemorates the harvest and the way the Israelites were sheltered in tents in the wilderness on their way to the promised land. That made me think of all of us on the highways trying to get to somewhere safe. During the entire week of Sukkot, Jews are supposed to actually live in the sukkahs or huts. Now by live, they mean this. You have to sleep there, even if it's only for a nap. Eat there at least once a day. So picnic, even if it's just a piece of bread, and study holy writings. And you have to furnish it. You have to bring out a table, chairs, rug, maybe some candles. So where are the loopholes? There are none. The interpretations are specific. The letter of the law says to sleep in a sukkah during Sukkot. The spirit of the law says we're doing this because we want to remember how we were kept safe and sheltered comfortably during the trip to the Promised Land. So, what if I'm sick? Go inside, the rabbis say. We're commemorating God keeping us comfy. You'll be comfier inside. What if I get cold? What if there are mosquitoes or it smells funny? Go inside. Weren't you listening a minute ago? Next year, build somewhere less smelly and bring the bug spray. What about if it rains? Guess. For Pete's sake, go inside. If your house was leaking, you wouldn't lay there and get drenched. We're commemorating how God comforted us. The plagues are in a few months. You can torment yourself then. Don't sleep in an icy rain. Do not picnic in a hailstorm. Don't hurt yourself to celebrate a holiday about being comforted. You think about how many people you know miserable on Thanksgiving or Christmas Day because they've been up for 2 days cooking and they're exhausted and angry. They're wiped out. They're broke because they spent way too much money on a holiday meant to celebrate love and togetherness. Now here's the kicker. Anyone who's legitimately excused from the sukkah but remains there anyway doesn't get any reward but is considered an idiot. Rabbi Joel Padowitz writes, the great Hasidic master, the Katzka Rebbe, explained that the mystical meaning of Sukkah is the concept of Bitul, the notion that to the extent one focuses on self, he impedes his connection to both other people and to the divine. This is why during Sukkot one is obliged to leave your worldly possessions and return to the basics, living with bare walls, surrounded by family and friends. But somebody consciously aware of personal distress who can't get out of that, you don't get the deeper meanings, and so you're excused from it. But the rabbis through history have not been generous fools either. They've been very clear that you should eat at least an ounce of bread in the sukkah one night, try to say all 4 short blessings, even if it is starting to rain a little. Wait 1 or 2 hours before you give up and go to bed in the nice warm house. So get in out of the rain, but it really has to be raining. They have closed every possible loophole. Judaism is clear, break the rules. If you need to do that to understand the idea. Don't think you'll get rewarded for suffering when you've been told you don't have to. Judaism is specific. Choosing to suffer when you've been told you don't have to is foolish, not a sign of devotion. So as we search for truth and meaning, that idea has a lot of value. Because quite a few of us grew up in religions that said you need to suffer. Sometimes following the letter of the law only serves as a miscarriage of justice. You don't have to suffer. And not all laws and ideas and rules are good. Look at how many of you, and I do not want a show of hands, but how many of you lived in zones A, B, and C and wrote it out at home? Because you knew you were set up to do that. Your experience told you more than a generic command. And here you are, so you're obviously not dead. Not all laws and rules are right and good. And it gets bigger. Look at those that prevent women's health care right now. Those aren't good laws. Anne Frank was technically a criminal. The Nazis who killed her were obeying all the laws. The question of what is wise to do is not theoretical. No two of us in this room have the same political beliefs. No two of us have identical religious and social beliefs. We value that diversity. All you can do is figure out when it is wise to obey the exact letter of the law and when it is wise to fulfill the spirit. This past week, Hurricane Milton impacted millions, right on the heels of Hurricane Helena, which impacted those same millions and 2 million more. People had to decide what was right. Do we evacuate, stay put, go north, maybe south? There was a marvelous discussion online about, do we go find all the homeless people that we know of and warn them in case they don't have radio or TV? So there was a group that was doing that and driving to all the places where they knew somebody homeless hung out to make sure that they knew to evacuate and where the centers were. Evacuees carrying their most treasured possessions and beloved people and pets. You may have had a good feel for what the Israelites felt like as you got in those cars and your homes became temporary locations and whatever food and drink was close at hand. What should I do? What must I do? Only you know that. Being a Unitarian Universalist means you don't get handed a holy book and a neat set of interpretations and told, here you go, do it this way. You have the wonderful and terrible job of finding wisdom and determining for yourself what rules you will follow in order to live an ethically sound and moral life. especially in crisis. That's why we think about it now, so that when the sirens go off and you have to make decisions in half an hour, you know who you are and you know where you stand. When rules and laws promote the spread of evil, when rules and laws help unmake justice, when they try to turn the arc of the universe toward oppression, then it's your job to heal the world, to bend that arc to justice, to renounce evil, destruction in its guise of order. All the trains ran on time in Nazi Germany. Laws and rules are shelters, but when they do not promote comfort, but instead trap and terrify, it's time to tear them down and build again. It's time to get out of the hailstorm and go inside where it's comfortable. Search responsibly for truth and meaning. Determine the rules and the ethics and the morals that you will live by. And when rules and laws created by humans violate the very things they claim to uphold, refuse to be bound, knowing that you may take the consequences. Trust your common sense and research to support it when possible, but not for too long. Don't overthink. Make decisions. Have faith in the direction you take. Be willing to turn around if you need to. When the hail starts falling, take your picnic inside and invite your neighbors to go with you if you can. And when the spirit and the letter can conflict, let the spirit say do. Be guarded and guided by all that you hold dear, and all that you know in your heart and soul to be moral and good, and keep making this world a better place. Amen. May our light shine through every storm so that we can always find a path home. We're going to finish today with hymn number 143, Let Freedom Span Both East and West. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, 148, Let Freedom Span Both East and West. And at times it must waver. But when a group together is dedicated to nurturing the power of good, it is rare for the light to grow dim in all individuals at the same moment. So may we borrow courage and wisdom from one another to warm us and keep us until we're together again. Peace, ashe, and may it be so.